guys, Rachel here with Meet Advisors and Justin DeLay from TempoIQ. We're here with the next game changer. So Justin, tell me a bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am the co-founder and CMO of TempoIQ, which is based here in Chicago. We founded the company in 2012. Founded the company via the Techstars Accelerator program, and have been here ever since.
Very exciting. Where were you before that?
Yeah, so I was actually in grad school at the time. So I had known my two co-founders, our CEO, Andy Kronk, and our CTO, Mike Yeagley, for the better part of a decade. Actually knew Mike, our CTO, because we played in a rock band together in undergrad, but music was not we were clearly not meant to be professional musicians, probably professional software engineers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was in grad school, and they called me up and said, "Hey, listen, you know, we've been struggling with this data problem in our day jobs at a geothermal energy company here in town, and you know, there just aren't any tools available to help us solve this problem. So we're going to leave our company and build this tool that we think we need. Do you want to join us?" And I said,
"Yeah,
of course." Yeah. So I was able to work out, thanks to, if by any chance my dean of my school ever sees this, you know, he actually really made it possible for me to leave school. I was at University of Michigan at the time and participate in Techstars and actually graduate remotely while doing Techstars and starting the company. And so, yeah, I've been back here. Yeah,
really helped you out.
Yes, he did.
So tell me about TempoIQ. What's your story?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, you know, it really was born out of the really tough challenges that Mike and Andy faced, both software engineers at a geothermal energy company. And so geothermal energy is installing these really complex systems in the ground and using deep 600 feet into the ground, using the energy that is naturally occurring, the heat energy from the earth to heat and cool buildings. And you know, it's a form of alternative energy.
Right.
And the challenge with any kind of alternative energy is that often you have to spend more up front. You know, if you're installing solar panels on a roof or something, you have to spend more money up front, but then you save money over time.
Right, exactly.
And the only way to know if you're actually saving money over time is to be able to measure what's happening.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they would install these big systems, put sensors all over them, connect them to the buildings, heating and cooling systems, put sensors all over the buildings, and then measure what was happening to try to optimize the energy usage. And what they discovered was, when you're dealing with lots of sensor data, and we're talking like hundreds of sensors in this building, measuring at pretty high resolution. So, you know, every 15 minutes, I believe, in their situation.
Oh, wow.
You just have these massive streams of data, right, that never stop. You know, every 15 minutes, these sensors are generating data. And if you want to be able to monitor it in real time, so you're looking for changes or looking for something that might be going wrong, or analyze it, you know, to go back and look for trends or look for correlations, or even just to store it all on disk, right, is a really, really tough challenge, because our legacy database technologies were never really designed for this kind of volume. And it's part of the whole big data challenge. And now, you know, what we're seeing is, we had this big data challenge before, but now we've got the Internet of Things, which is another big buzzword. But this idea that there's going to be 50 billion, 100 billion devices out there in the world measuring everything in real time, it's just a massive, massive problem that no one's been able to solve. And so TempoIQ is our solution to that problem. So it's an integrated real-time monitoring, historical analysis, and scalable storage service of sensor data.
Wow. So it kind of helps analyze in real time. Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Big challenge.
We love it. I'm very excited about it. Yeah.
So what have some challenges been that you've seen over the past few years?
Sure. Well, so, you know, there are certainly, you know, really, really tremendous technical challenges that have to be faced and solved to achieve the kind of scale and performance that we're looking to achieve. Thankfully, we have a fantastic engineering team that we've built over time here in town, and they are well on their way to solving many of these challenges. And but you know, when I put my hat on, and I spend most of my time thinking about the marketing of the product and of the brand. You know, a couple of years ago, although folks, I think, kind of had a hunch that the Internet of Things was going to be a thing, or that, that we were headed towards a future state where there were sensors all over the world. A couple, it seems like a million years ago. You flash back 2 years ago, and people really didn't quite understand the scope of the challenges.
Right.
So we would come out and say, we've got this, we got the solution to your problem. They said, this is going to be a problem, and didn't really understand it. And so, the first almost 2 years of our existence, we really had to be very thoughtful about the way that we went to market and try to find customers who were having these problems. The really early adopters.
Yeah.
I think we're able to kind of survive and iterate, and I really think we'll end up looking back at earlier this year, Google bought Nest Thermostat, which is kind of like the poster child of the Internet of Things, and there's like 8 sensors in there measuring all the stuff about your home.
Yeah.
And I think that was the moment where, the business community, the broader community took a step back and said, "Oh, this is real now." Right?
That's where we're going.
Google spent $3 billion or whatever it was, right, on this device, and it's not about the device, but it's about that device being an entry point into the connected home.
Right.
And I think we're seeing huge growth in. I'm not wearing mine today, but the sort of personal informatics, the Fitbits and the Jawbones and the Nikes of the world. These are the consumer entries into this Internet of Things space. We have business in the consumer space, but spend most of our time more on the commercial or on the industrial space, where you have these huge machines or very valuable assets that if you're able to understand what's happening in them in real time, there's real either cost efficiencies to be discovered, or sort of preventive maintenance techniques where you can fix it before it breaks, which is usually cheaper than fixing it after it breaks. So we spend more of our time on the alternative energy, oil and gas, smart grid, manufacturing, sort of smart cities, smart infrastructure. But I think that what we're going to see is there's just going to be a massive wave of adoption within the consumer space over the next 12 to 18 months. Whenever Apple launches the iWatch, right? That's going to be the big thing that everyone's going to all of a sudden have all the sensor data flowing from their body, and it's going to have to go somewhere, and we're going to have to do something with it. So.
Yeah. Very interesting. So what does the competitive field look like for you guys? You don't have to name names, but are you guys like the main, or? Yeah,
so we are definitely the leader in this space. We have been at the forefront of this space since our inception, and the competitive set today is primarily a decision within an organization to either try to build something themselves or to buy our service. And when you're selling into a technical organization, there's often a real desire to own the technology, to build it yourselves. And what that looks like is attempting to stitch together various open source technologies, right? So you'll have an open source database and an open source complex event processing system to try to do the real-time monitoring. And then it's up to you to figure out how to run these things, how to stitch them together, and then how to scale them.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. And there are certainly several organizations, there are lots of folks out there who can do this, but I think the question becomes like, should you? Is this your core competency? Do you want to run this massive scaling system? Or do you want to focus on making sense of the data in the system, you pulling it out and you finding the insights or finding the ways to do something with it? So we primarily compete on a build versus buy basis, but we're starting to see all of the legacy sort of database or analytics players. Everyone recognizes this is a huge opportunity, and so they're rapidly moving into our space. So I'm assuming that we're going to have quite a bit of competition from several large players very, very quickly. But for now, we are the leader and best.
Awesome. Well, how do you plan on staying ahead of the loop?
Sure. So we spent the first couple of years, building up our engineering team, building up the product itself. We've now started to turn our attention to really rapidly scaling up our sales and marketing. And I think we've got something that we know people need, and that there's a market for it. And so the goal now, I think, is to rapidly gain entry and then prominence within a couple of key verticals, the ones we talked about previously, sort of alternative energy and beyond. And we've done a seed round, we've done a Series A.
Yeah, so exciting.
I think that we'll probably end up raising more money to support that kind of growth trajectory that we're on. But I think, as much as it's about rapidly scaling our business to scale our customer base, it's also just about continuing to innovate on the technology side. And really, it's not technology for technology's sake. It's technology for the sake of solving the new problems that we discover. And, I feel very bullish about our ability to do that. I think we've got a really, really great team who's very thoughtful and very focused on what can we do next.
That's amazing. I think that's definitely always the next question that companies should be asking themselves.
Sure.
So very exciting.
Great.
All right, guys. Rachel here with Meet Advisors. You can find us on meetadvisors.com. And Justin, tell them where they can find you.
Sure. So our company can be found at TempoIQ.com. And if anybody has any questions for me personally, I can be found at Justin@TempoIQ.com.
Great. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Bye.